Hi, this is Tim of the 1916 Company. Welcome and thanks for logging on. We are waking up with watches. Everything you see here is for sale and in stock. So reach out to me, tmosso at thewatchbox.com to buy, trade, or sell. We sell what we buy what we sell. We are always looking to build inventory. We like to trade. Sometimes we can give you more value on a trade than an outright sale. But if you do want to sell, we pay cash, we pay fast, we wire, we make it easy, walk you through the whole process, no upper limit on value paid. We will buy your entire collection of Renaissance pocket watches. Reach out to tmosso at thewatchbox.com for purchase and pricing details. Let's talk about a watch that embodies everything Grand Seiko does well. This is the SBGJ275, known as the Sea of Clouds. It is a high-beat GMT launched in 2023. It is a limited edition from the Shizuku Ishii Studios. This is reminiscent of the sky above Mount Iwate, which is proximate to the Iwate Prefecture studio where the mechanical Grand Seiko watches are made. Now, taking a look, we have this GMT-style bezel that has not only iridescent metallic coatings on its base, but a sapphire cap to preserve it. As a result, we have the ability here to fully illuminate the bezel with no danger of the lume chipping off because it is sapphire protected, and it is spectacular to behold. With a luminescent 24-hour hands, you can easily read. It's just over 44 millimeters in diameter, 44.2, and it is a limited edition of 2,000 pieces in steel, celebrating 25 years since the advent of the original 9S luxury mechanical caliber. Now, I can wear it. It's actually thinner than you might expect, quite a bit, in fact. It's broad, but not too broad, so if your wrist is 16 centimeters circumference or larger, you're going to find it's a good fit. The case is tin plate polished by hand, Zaratsu finish, as Grand Seiko calls it. That is the Japanese word for Zalitz machine polishing, and the foremost practitioners of this art, which takes about 3 years to master, they are the folks at Grand Seiko today. So you won't be able to get into a truly hand-finished luxury brand Swiss watch for this kind of money, but at Grand Seiko, game on. Now, as you can see, a smoothly gliding seconds hand. It is not spring drive, it's high beat, so 10 beats per second. We have gorgeous dial side furniture, the logo in gold, the individual indices, the hands, and the frame for the date. You can see the frame for the date features both polish and matting. These components are all micro-finished by artisans who use tiny diamond-tipped milling tools and basically just do this all day long. They are super specialized, and so once these components are made by hand, they're placed on the dial and caulked by hand. So this is a handcrafted dial to go with your hand-finished case. Grand Seiko, I would say, along with Rolex, has the best dials in the luxury space. So not entry-level luxury, not high luxury, but mainstream luxury. It's Grand Seiko and Rolex. The difference, Rolex does it with machine-driven consistency. Grand Seiko does it with artistry. Now, on the reverse side, we have this lovely oxidized rotor and the Calibre 9S86 automatic winding here. We've got a 55-hour power reserve, 2 independent time zones, and these are accurate to no worse than -3 +5 seconds a day, so even a little bit better than COSC. There's no shortage of water resistance here. You can absolutely take the swimming. Water resistant to 200 meters. Fully loomed, automatic winding, full bracelet, stainless steel with a secondary time zone. You can see how I can set my local time independently while the seconds hand continues to move and the 24-hour hand and the minute hand are not budged here. I can even drive the date forward and backwards as I cross the international date line. Now we're going to stick with our blue sports watch theme here with the Calibre de Cartier Diver. Now, the Calibre de Cartier came out in 2010. The Diver in 2014. The blue model, which was the first and only with a ceramic bezel insert, came out in 2016. The watch is 42 millimeters in diameter, but super slim at under 11 millimeters thick. It also features a lug span that's about 48 millimeters from lug tip to lug tip, and with a curvature to its case back, wears like a tonneau watch. See how it's hugging my wrist? And these lugs are nowhere near the edge of my wrist, so this watch wears super slim to the point that a small wrist, 14 centimeters circumference, could wear it, and it'll fit underneath the cuff quite easily. The case is interesting. It's anything but an integrated lug Seamaster or Sea Dweller or Submariner look. The lugs are stepped out, and then we've got little recesses in the case flank so that the strap can be absolutely flush to the case for a totally integrated look, no daylight showing between strap and case, and yet there's no impediment to the motion of the strap. Textile on top, rubber on the bottom with evacuations to vent the wrist and also improve flexibility. The comfort is outstanding. And then we've got a steel pin buckle for quick adjustments. We have a little polished knurled edge outboard that makes it really easy to grip this bezel. And listen. Along with Grand Seiko and Rolex, Cartier has the finest feeling dive bezels in the business. And make no mistake, this is a dive watch, ISO 6425 compliant. Cartier made a big deal about that when the Calibre de Cartier Diver arrived. These are tested to 125% of the dial water resistance rating. We've got a triple date, so if the broadsword minutes cover up the date window, you can still see the succeeding and preceding and know the correct date. Take a look in the dark, no shortage of luminescence, including a large triangular bezel pearl. You can see that the entire small seconds chaptering is luminescent here, and then it's easy to line your index up with the minute hand, which makes for easy reading of the 0 to 60-minute count-up timer. I love dive bezels. I find them more convenient than chronographs, and they're a lot cheaper to service down the line than chronographs. Underneath the case back, we have a Cartier 1904 Petit Seconde, a manufacturer movement automatic winding with twin barrels for super stable timekeeping. It has a very flat torque curve. With those twin barrels in series and phased mainsprings, you basically don't need a constant force device to keep regular time and achieve constant force to the balance. Got a little spinel cabochon out there, a blue dial with a concentric pattern under the hour track. Look up at 10 o'clock, you can see the Cartier secret signature. And then it features hacking seconds and a quick set date, a really great dive watch, possibly the most underrated dive watch in the business, from a company that is not synonymous with dive watches, but maybe should be. Okay, sticking with our beautiful sports watch trend, a very different look with the Zenith Chronomaster Open. Now this watch features blazing applique rhodium-plated steel hands and individual indices. The indices overlap from the minutes track over to the fractional seconds track, and what I'm going to do here is I'm going to fire everything up. You can see this watch, which features Calibre 4021. It has a special evacuated bridge and base plate so that you can see the escapement, you can see the third wheel, the fourth wheel, you can see the balance and the hairspring, and all of this from the dial side. This originally debuted on Chronomaster Open in 2003. It was one of Terry Natoff's best ideas during his controversial period at the head of Zenith, but was also universally copied and hugely influential, and it's been an enduring influence that stuck with the brand since he departed in 2009. Now we have a power reserve indicator on the dial side, 50 to 52 hours of power reserve. The watch can be wound manually if you wish to see it traverse in real time, but it is an automatic winding watch. The great thing about this open dial is you get 90% of the fun of a tourbillon at 10% of the price. You can see there's that incredibly extended fourth wheel pinion with a tri-spoke that acts as running seconds. Now we do have some lume. I'm going to show you that now. Easy to read in the dark. And you can see that the seconds hand, as on the Grand Seiko, glides more smoothly than you might expect because it's a 36,000 vibration per hour, 5 hertz, 10 beat per second movement, which has been a characteristic of the El Primero Calibre since the first debuted in 1969 as the very first integrated automatic high-beat chronograph, and it has been the reference point in chronographs ever since. It was famously used as the movement in the 1988 to 1999 Rolex Daytona, and for good reason. It was the best available at the time. Crisp column wheel action, you feel it, you hear it, it's very satisfying. There is a lateral clutch. You can see that we have the characteristic Chronomaster case. We have a large bracelet that has all removable links and a little curvature engineered into each link, so fit is excellent. You can also see how there's a countersink of one link into the other, so that the tolerances are outstanding. There's very little side-to-side play here. It's one of the most rigid in that regard I've ever encountered, and the integrity is awesome. With every link removable, you're going to get the right size. Twin trigger deploy and clasp, then we flip around the reverse side, and you can see that we have the rather handsome El Primero 4021. Now, it's not a given that automatic winding chronographs are going to be good-looking movements, but when it's an El Primero, that is almost always the case. You can see both the lateral clutch and the column wheel, which often get buried under winding bridges on automatic chronos. This is a good-looking one. And if you listen to it, it has that double step cadence against the ear of a 5 hertz movement. You can also see water resistant, 100 meters. You can absolutely take this watch swimming. It's 42 millimeters, so it's fairly large, but I could wear it. You can see on the bracelet, it's a little bit wide. I'd recommend it for a wrist my size or larger, so 16 centimeters circumference or larger to wear this watch well. You can see just how dramatically boxed and cambered that sapphire is. This watch is full of surprise and delight design details. Here's another watch that's full of surprise and delight details. This actually came out last year, part of a series of stainless steel Audemars Piguet Code 1159 automatic and chronograph versions. The Code 1159 originally came out controversially in 2019. Everyone liked the complications at the time, but the automatic and the chronograph were controversial for what appeared to be relatively plain and some might even say homely dials. Well, Audemars Piguet fixed that fast with an array of gradient fade lacquer in 2020, and then in 2023 they started using this remarkably intricate stamped guillot shape pattern with white gold hands, applique indices, logo, and date frame. We will do a quick demonstration right here of another feature that was new, which was luminescence in a stainless steel case new to the line. You can see that 41 millimeters in diameter in steel, the finishing is incredibly intricate. Look at the curvature of the crystal when viewed end on. You can see how it dips at 12 and 6. You can also see how that causes crazy refraction patterns when you look at it off axis. We also have this inner case sandwiched between the bezel and the case back that is a rounded octagon, a subtle nod to the royal oak. And then we have these hexagonal bolts that hold the strap to the case, another nod to the oak. We also have a buckle built to match the watch that has those same hexagonal bolts. And taking a quick look, you can even see we have evacuated lugs, a beautifully artistic and thoughtful design detail that gets missed in a lot of the soldier shots online. The case band is somewhat recessed in from the bezel, and you can see the bezel is very spare. From the front, you almost can't see it. We also have internal beveling of these lugs, and you can see that internal beveling is on both sides. Quite impressive. The watch has stop seconds, quick set date, automatic winding, a manufacturer movement that is properly sized for the case back at 32 millimeters in diameter. 4302 automatic winding in-house caliber, 4 hertz, 72 hours of power reserve. And then you've got a rotor that is skeletonized and internally beveled. It has no fewer than 3 different finishes on it. And take a look at the quality of these internal angles where the bevels meet. We've got 4 on this side, 4 on this side. Then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 more. That is deeply impressive. That rotor by itself is a work of art, the likes of which you will not see equaled even on many movements that include Geneva hallmark. And if you look very carefully, this is easy to miss, but you can see that the center of the rotor itself also has the rounded octagonal form of the royal oak bezel. Easy to miss, but once you see it, you can't unsee it. A fun detail. This watch is full of brand-specific Easter eggs. It also has a full balance bridge and a free-sprung Gyromax style balance, as this movement was designed to be sports watch tough, despite being used across the range, including in dress watches. And particularly with that rotor, you are getting your money's worth as far as fine finish is concerned. We have here a textile pattern, and on the underside, calfskin leather. We're going to throw it on my wrist. I love this green dial. I love its intricacy. I love the fact that it's sort of a forest green that's likely to go the distance. In the era of green dials, some will look like period pieces, other will be timelessly beautiful 20, 30 years down the line from the green watch trio of 2020, 21, and 22. And I guess 2023 maybe the fourth of the green watch years. and this, of course, came out in 2023. But I think the green watch moment is done, but this will stand the test of time. Really good looking watch. I can recommend it for a wrist as small as 14 centimeters circumference. Oddly enough, I can also recommend this for a smaller wrist, and normally that's not the case with Hublot. We sent this out to a client recently who returned it because, in his words, it was too small. Now, for those who are reflexively primed to hate Hublot, that might actually endear it to you. This is not for the lifted one-ton diesel dually pickup truck crowd. This is for the people who maybe admire some aspects of Hublot and its history, but can't get on board with a 44, 45, 48 millimeter watch. Well, here, with the Big Bang Unico yellow sapphire, it's a 42, and it wears like a 42, being almost entirely sapphire with a titanium inner case. It is super light, almost toy-like. A lot of people don't have any first-hand experience with sapphire watches, so if you're wondering, think titanium watch to get the general idea. You can see how the lug profiles are downwardly canted, so it fits even better. The strap feels like silicone, being super soft, gummy, and supple. You can see it will actually fit underneath most cuffs. On my wrist, 16 centimeters circumference, it wears well. Look how far inboard from the edge of my wrist these lugs are. This is something you could actually wear on a wrist as small as 14 centimeters circumference. And the yellow sapphire is, in my opinion, the most successful sapphire since the 2016 original Unico sapphire. This has the truest color. They've done fuchsia, they've done blue, they've done other colors, but they always appear a little bit dilute, whereas this feels quite intense, a real saffron yellow. We have details to match on the dial. We'll just do a quick lume shot so you can see how well loomed it is. And then on the reverse side, take a quick look, a 100-piece limited edition from the 2020 model year. It is powered by what's officially described as Unico 2, the 1280. 1240 was the first. This is 1.3 millimeters thinner than the original Unico, which makes for a thinner watch. And like the original Unico, it is a flyback column wheel lateral clutch chronograph, automatic winding with a 72-hour power reserve. And if you look carefully, and we'll do my best here to show you the details, but if you look carefully, you can see that both lateral clutch and column wheel are on the dial side of the Unico Calibre. It was designed somewhat upside down so you could enjoy the best parts of the chrono on the dial. Here's the lateral clutch, starting and stopping, starting and stopping. Look at the finely etched Leica profiled teeth that actually mesh. This is designed to reduce the jump when you actuate it. Those super fine meshing teeth ensure that all you do is you press and hold the chronograph, and it will actually start without any of the jump associated with a lateral clutch. That's comparable to a vertical clutch, but you get the beauty of a lateral clutch. Then you've got this column wheel with an H-pattern bolt at the center. You have a little minute register that gives you 60 minutes of resolution, which I love. I love 60-minute chronograph registers because they're uncommon. Now, the watch does include a couple of other features here, like hacking or stop seconds. There is a skeletonized date wheel that orbits the dial side. You can see the date sits inside the minutes register, and you have a quick set, so you can rapidly set it just like that. A lot of fun to accomplish. And then it features the push-button quick-release system that's characteristic of the Big Bang Unicos. So if you want to dress it down a little bit, maybe with black alligator leather and make it more versatile, or if you want to go two-tone, maybe you want to go with lemon lime, make one side green, make one side yellow. You can get those from Hublot. You just pop it off, and just like that, you make the switch. Easy to do. With a sapphire case, this watch is almost impossible to scratch. Sapphire is even harder than ceramic. It is harder than tegmented steel, which is generically carburized steel. This is harder than all of that. Unless you encounter diamonds in your daily life, you will probably never put a mark on it. A really cool watch with a lovely profile and just the right amount of contrasting black tones. The Big Bang Unico Yellow Sapphire, 100 pieces, launched in 2020. This is a lot of fun. This is another 2023 watch, 40 millimeters in steel. This is the H. Moser & C Endeavour Center Second Vantablack. Now, what I like here is that while it is a Vantablack dial, it doesn't have the typical pitfall of these dials, which is that it's difficult to put indices or distinguishing features on Vantablack, as it will generally mar the material and cause it to reflect more light. So what they did at Moser, and they pioneered this first on the Streamliner, was instead of putting indices on the dial or attempting to print indices on the dial, they actually cut away the Vantablack. So Vantablack is one of the least reflective materials in the world. It has vertical carbon nanotubes, and so it absorbs 99.965% of light that hits it. And so the areas where it has been removed, you can see a silver disc underneath. Now we also have a fired blue or fired violet seconds hand, which lets you know this is a very special watch. With the inclusion of the individual indices, this becomes a much easier watch to read and more practical, which is good because it's designed to be worn every day. Stainless steel with beautifully hand-finished profiles and evacuated lugs. You can see it has a concave bezel all the way around, and it's thin, it's steel, it's automatic winding. It has a version of the HMC 200 movement with a rose gold quadruple finished rotor, 3 days of power reserve. We have a hacking or stop seconds function, a free sprung balance with recessed bolts, and a full balance bridge, making it a very tough, shock-resistant watch. What's nice here is that Moser makes the whole movement, and through its precision engineering subsidiary, which is in Schaffhausen in German Switzerland with Moser, it makes the hairspring, the balance, and also the escapement. So Moser's really doing the heavy lifting, making every part of the watch. What I also like is that blue balance bridge and that blued seconds hand lets you know that you're looking at twin horizontally opposed symmetrical flat hairsprings. So because they are equal in basically diameter, geometry, weight, and profile, but they are opposite, being 180 degrees out of phase. When gravity causes one to run slow, gravity causes the other by an equal and opposite margin to speed up the regulator. So in any position instantaneously, they cancel out the effects of gravity, doing what a gyro tourbillon is normally required to accomplish in a wristwatch. Finishing is handsome, as I mentioned, media blast, beveling, and also snailing and polish on the rotor, ceramic bearings, bidirectional winding, Paul-based magic lever winding system. Again, we have a 3 hertz beat rate. We have 3 days of power reserve. We do have the stop seconds function. You can see those bolts on the balance are recessed to make it an aerodynamic balance to reduce the impact of drag on timing. And it's an easy watch to wear. Being fairly compact with sharply downturned lug profiles, this really could be your only watch. I consider this to be an all-arounder more than a dress watch. I can't think of too many watches that would pair better with black tie if you wanted to go in that direction, but this is also a fantastic daily companion that is just packed with innovative technology and Moser exclusive features. Plus the Vantablack is a real conversation starter. An absolutely awesome way to get into independent watchmaking today. All right, this is one of the first 75 FPJ Chronometre à résonance ever manufactured. You can see it has the super rare combination of a white gold dial and the platinum case. Now, this watch features a 01 case year of manufacture stamp, and I'm not going to give you the exact serial, but it was one of the first 75 constructed. You can see it features the first generation brass movement with a visible ratchet wheel and click for both sides, 2 barrels, 2 drivetrains, 2 escapements. And the way this works is that you have 2 balances and 2 escapements. There is no mechanical link here between the 2 sides of the movement. But like pendulums or metronomes placed in proximity, provided the watch is properly tuned and regulated by a Journe watchmaker, these will synchronize in about 7 to 10 minutes, and then they will beat in opposition. And so because they move equal and opposite, and they couple to each other by resonance, which is basically a product of constructive interference brought about by the frictional forces that emanate out as vibrations. If one is caused to run slow or disrupted, the other one, which is coupled to it, will autocorrect, and they will vary relative to each other by generally less than 5 seconds per 24 hours. Now, what's interesting here, by the way, you can see the little rack and pinion, the rose gold pinion screw, and then the polished steel rack. That's used to adjust the distance between the sides. What really caught my eye is how hand-finished this movement is, and that's not a common thing on Journe watches. For some reason, there was a period right around 70 to 80 Chronometre à résonance coming off the line when a lot of hand beveling was being done. And this is unlike later brass movements, and it's unlike the later rose gold movements. The quality of the anglage here is so unique. I can't honestly say I've seen it on any standard Journe before. This is really impressive, proving that in the early days there were lots of exceptions to the rule in terms of how these things were put together. Now, because it takes 7 to 10 minutes for the two sides to synchronize to each other, the second's hands might not be perfectly aligned, so Journe gives you a flyback mechanism. And yes, you can set these two dials independently, so it works as a dual time as well. This is a French-made Eleanor case with French and Swiss hallmarks on it, and being 38 millimeters in diameter and 44.5 millimeters lug to lug, it wears beautifully. It also has an early Journe deployant clasp, more on that in a moment. At a time when you would get a pin buckle when you ordered these, the deploying clasp was a very expensive up option. By the way, I'd recommend this watch for a wrist to small as 13.5 centimeters circumference, so the most discriminating female collectors who want the best will find this also wears well. Now, the optional clasp, fascinating. As you can see, once you get inside it, this was a period when Journe was not making his own cases, bracelets, and clasps, and you can see there is a maker's mark in there that is not Journe. You can also see that the swing arm is visibly a darker material than the buckle. That's because the swing arm is mechanical grade gold, or white gold, which is the hardest of golds. And then you can see the buckle is made of platinum, and the composition of this clasp as well as the maker's marks would change over time. Very hard to find one of these watches on a clasp, even harder to find one with the correct period clasp. Again, one of the first 75 of Journe's arguably most important world premiere, and a beautiful example with the white gold dial. Very, very few of these in the world. You can see it's almost champagne today because of the fade of the lacquer on the dial, and these do age differentially. No two actually patina the same way. You can see there's a little bit of tarnish, and that's not due to water intrusion or anything. It's just a sign of age, and because we have that varnish, the printing seems to float suspended above the dial. A lot of characteristics that define early Journe watches. Finally, an all-time favorite of mine and still one of my all-time goal watches. I don't know I'd call this my grail, but I would definitely call this one of my top goal watches, something I really want to own. And of course, I timed this for you guys because you're fans and so am I. This is the 2009 Zeitwerk, the 42mm white gold model. Everything that's black on the dial is blackened sterling silver. The centerpiece, inspired by the 5-minute clock at the Dresden Opera House not far from Glashütte. This is actually part of the movement. That's actually a clear pivot jewel for the discs that display the minutes. Power reserve indicator, 36 hours, and the feel of winding this crown is singular. Nothing else winds like a Zeitwerk crown. And by the way, if you want to just play with the watch, you can absolutely do that, and I would just do this all day. There is a stop seconds function. You can see that right here. Characteristic Lange case, a substantial watch, but not as thick as it looks. It's around 13 millimeters. Now on the back, Calibre L043, you could see the cap of the barrel. You can also see that the barrel has been anchored to the bridges around it. So powerful is that mainspring, so forceful that the structure through which the upper arbor projects needs to be physically anchored to the bridges of the movement. Now we've got this polished steel Maltese cross stopworks. That will stop it when it no longer has enough energy to jump the time, but it will also stop you from overwinding it. We've got this linear device, including a separate locking lever, 2 third wheels, and a blued hairspring between them. There's also an air brake to slow down the transmission of energy during the jump. That hairspring between the twin third wheels is the remontoir, and the energy from that spring is deposited by the barrel once a minute. The energy in the spring then drives the escapement, so even though there's huge torque here, you're not going to have much variation in balance amplitude for the full 36 hours of power reserve, making it an excellent timekeeper in a jump hour genre that is famously bad at keeping time. This is the exception. Overcoil hairspring, free sprung balance, 2.5 hertz beat rate, solarization to crown wheel and ratchet wheel. Also, if you look carefully, you can see that the teeth have been been internally micro-beveled. Best of the best finish, including freehand engraving and black polish. This is as good as it gets. Easy to wear, despite its size. I'd say if your wrist is my size or larger, game on. 16 centimeters circumference. I'm having no trouble wearing this. Now, the bigger Zeitwerks in the 44.2 millimeter case, those are a little bit challenging. This is an easy one to live with. And my goodness, if I were to live with one watch for the rest of my life, I could easily make it this GPHG Aiguille winning multi-complication from a Lange und Sohne. They say if you buy a Lange, there are 3 canonical watches. The Lange 1, the Chronograph, and the Zeitwerk. And sometimes it depends on your personality, who you are, which one you choose. For me, it is the Zeitwerk. If you love this watch, reach out to me. I am Team Mosso at thewatchbox.com for purchase and pricing details.